Thank you, Chair, and Mr. Mayor, you're very welcome to the committee, and it's good to have you in this evening. Best of luck with your new position. I know you're 5 weeks in. It's a baptism of fire, I guess, to an extent. You're certainly learning fast, and indeed tonight maybe we'll help you with that because you're getting questions thick and fast, so you'll be learning on the job. I represent Kildare, North Kildare, and near the Bog of Allen. We're never too far from the bog in Kildare, particularly North West Kildare. And it's something that's very close to the hearts, I think, of the people in every sense, as a resource, as an amenity, as heritage, and it's something I often think in the wider scene. I often think of James Joyce and the short story *The Dead*, and the closing lines with the snow falling in the Bog of Allen, immortalised in literature. So something close to the hearts of the Irish nation, I would suggest, even as much as in my own county. I have a couple of specific questions I want to put to you, and I do appreciate you're new to the position. You did mention you're going to undertake some site visits, so maybe these are some things you might bear in mind as you're going about your business on that. Starting with the Drehid Landfill up in North West Kildare, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's due for expansion. It has been, I suppose, it's had an uneasy peace with its nearest neighbours, but that has been jeopardised in recent times. I think it's one of the largest landfills in the country at this stage, and it's something I've discussed in the Dáil and discussed with the Minister and various other interested parties. I think with the intensity of landfills and the shortage of capacity around the country, that more and more municipal waste from the Dublin region is heading towards Kildare, heading towards Drehid. And I think last year it actually exceeded its capacity before the end of the year and had to be ground to a halt. There is an issue at the moment. An application for hazardous waste is being made. It's bypassing Kildare County Council. It's going through and working on all the directly strategic infrastructure. I've seen that before with other. I was a member of that council myself at one stage, and I've seen how that can often, I suppose, be counterproductive in terms of the local authority actually becomes an objector itself, rather than being something a facilitator. It can actually go the other way. I think the bulk of the local community are not opposed to the presence of the landfill, and there's a working relationship. What is of major concern, though, is the haul routes, and this is a real issue because there are, I think, 4 haul routes in the planning, but in reality, one, maybe 2 of them, Sallins, Clant, Prosperous, Millicent, will be one in particular. Local, regional back roads, not even regional roads, but rural back roads, which will be subject to serious volumes of traffic, of heavy traffic, at different hours of the day, but even during daylight hours, as it were, children walking over school, etc., on sort of local rural roads and people out and about, and it's a real concern. So that is going to cause great alarm in the community, the fact that there's additional volumes going to be going into that landfill now. And I said the fact that it's hazardous material, the nature of the material is also going to cause alarm, and indeed has already. And as recently as yesterday, I had a contact on that. So it's something that, when you're doing a site visit there, maybe I might correspond with you with it, after the meeting and separately or in further correspondence. But I would suggest to explore other haul routes. There are, I think, 4 haul routes available, but only 1 or 2 are being used. I would think the Kilchin Road, Eden Dairy Road, would be a more appropriate haul route, and there may be other ways to access the site rather than the one that's being used at the moment. That's on the Drehid facility. Another site, and again, it's a local one in my own constituency. There's a solar facility being developed at Timahoe North, Timahoe South. I think it's with 500 megawatts capacity is the plan. It's been reasonably well received. Often energy facilities can have a mixed reaction, but there's a reasonably openness to it. People think are on board with renewable energy and understand we need to make that transition. So there isn't necessarily opposition to it just yet. But I would just query in terms of, and again, you may need to check this and come back to me, but in terms of community gain or community facilitation, I understand in Mount Lucas down the road there is, I understand, maybe an 84 megawatt site. I understand there's sort of grants in the region of 85,000 available to the local community. So at 500 megawatts, we'd hope that we'd have 500,000. If we can be so blunt as to use the same ratio for the Timahoe site, I don't know if there's plans in that regard, but I certainly would hope that there are, and it may help to, I suppose, sweeten the deal, as it were, for the community as well, something of that nature. Well, I know in Drehid, one of the reasons that people are so accepting is because there is a good relationship and there is a good grant scheme in operation. So as you might come back to me on those. And the final point, we have a few raised bogs in Kildare, in North Kildare. We have a couple of sites that I'm familiar with where individual plots of turf have been, I suppose, prohibited from cutting. We're not sure if they're SACs or NHAs, but whatever restrictions have been imposed. I understand sometimes there can be a deal done or an arrangement made where Board Namona can work with the landowners work with the national parks maybe to do a swap, and I have a couple of instances of that. And again, maybe we could correspond on that offline, or if you could maybe give me a general answer now, and maybe we could take that offline to the specific cases that I wanted to raise.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I bring
to Deputy Lawless's questions first. Drehid, in terms of the your questions in relation to that, I take your point in terms of the traffic and congestion and all the rest of it. I have been to the Drehid site. It is actually impressive in terms of the technology that they're using, the way things are done, the professional way they're done, and I think in terms of waste recycling and waste recovery, I think it is a great asset to the state in terms of how to do things well. And I think that shouldn't be forgotten about in this whole context. In the issue about your question about the hazardous waste, at the moment, all is being done is an application to, if you like, to see if we could apply for a licence associated with that. There isn't any decision made in relation to what we want to do within that. But obviously, anything we would do is totally within government policy and what is required. And I think the one piece I think that deputies can take as I think from what I've seen as an assurance is that whatever will be done not alone within all the licences that are required, but I think in excess of the licences in terms of safety, the way things are done. And certainly what I've seen in Drehid is on that lines. In relation to Timahoe, I'm sure you'll negotiate well in relation to the Mount Lucas, and again I think that's a local issue. But I think that, to be fair, that I think we do want to work with communities, to be fair to communities, and to be consistent in the way we do it. So I'm sure that issue will be dealt with. Your local issue in terms of the prohibited areas for cutting, I think, is a local issue which I think I'll bring back, and we can refer back that to management.